So this is a Chinese chessboard. I'm going to talk about the Chinese chessboard, talk about the pieces, and talk about how to play the game. So the first thing you'll notice is all of the pieces on the two sides are set up on the intersections rather than the actual spaces. You are playing on the intersections, which means the board dimensions are a little bit different to international chess. That's the first major difference. It's a rectangular board, effectively, as opposed to a square board. You have the same amount of pieces, however, the pieces are slightly different. You are divided into two sides, red and black, separated by this river. So even though you'll notice that some of the symbols are different, the pieces actually correspond to the ones sort of directly facing it. They are mirror images of each other. So the first thing is the pawns. These two pieces here. So these pieces here are your pawns. They will, or soldiers, they will move straight lines as pawns would in international chess. And the difference with this game is that they actually capture in the direction they move. So in international chess, for example, they capture diagonally. In this game, they actually capture straight ahead, which is different to what we're sort of familiar with for those of us more familiar with Western chess or international chess. Another difference is once they cross the river, they can then move sideways. So they can move forward or they can move left and right. So if this pawn's here, it can go up to here, or it can go over, or it can go over the other way, which is different. A final difference is once this pawn reaches the back rank, nothing happens. It can then only move left and right. So it's sort of just stuck, which is obviously different to international chess where a pawn will promote once it reaches the end of the board. Next piece is the cannon. We're going to actually ignore the cannon and we're going to come back to it in a second. We're going to skip to this one. This piece here is called the chariot. The chariot is like the rook in international chess in that it can move in straight lines, i.e. not diagonal, any number of squares, obviously unless it's blocked, in any direction. So forward, back, left, or right. Its movement is probably makes it the best piece on the board. So, just be aware of. Also, just like the rook in regular chess and just like international chess in general, captures the direction it moves. So no fancy capture moves with this guy. That is unlike the cannon here. This piece here is called the cannon. You have two of them. Not a piece that has a serious comparison in international chess. The cannon moves exactly like the chariot, except the difference is that instead of just capturing directly like by moving over the piece, it needs to have a piece in the middle. It needs to have an intermediary piece. And what that means is this cannon here can only capture this black pawn if there is another piece, friend or foe, in the middle. So in this case, it can basically jump over its own piece and capture that black pawn. Whereas if this pawn were out of the way, it would then be attacking what is effectively the king. It doesn't attack this piece, it attacks the one directly behind it. Makes the piece very powerful in the early game, but as pieces are taken off the board, there's less and less opportunity to kind of skewer like that and hop over a piece to capture another one. It also means that at the very start, your very first move, technically, you can capture an opponent's piece. You can play this very first move here and capture it. Probably not very strongly advised, but it is an option. That's one. Two. Three. This piece here is called your horse, and it is comparable to the knight in international chess. What I mean by that is the knight in international chess kind of moves forward 2 and over 1. This guy has a similar move. He will get to the same place. He'll get there a slightly different way though. Instead of moving forward 2 over 1, he moves forward 1, diagonal 1. And this is important because you can actually block the knight. In international chess, the knight can hop pieces. In this one, it can't. So if the cannon were positioned right in front of it, this knight could not move. It could not get to the square because it would have to go forward 1, but it's blocked before it can go diagonally. So that's important to remember. That piece can be blocked. This piece here is called the elephant. You'll notice the elephant is one of those pieces that has a very different symbol to its counterpart, which I believe is the Prime Minister, however I could be wrong. The elephant moves 2 diagonal squares away. Diagonally 2. You'll sort of realize pretty quickly that this means that there are certain squares it cannot actually get to. There's only 7 squares that this piece can land on the entire board because this piece cannot cross the river. So it can, for example, or I'll illustrate that now, it starts on this square, it can move into the middle, it can move up to the top, it can move over to the left, and it can move back. It can only move 2 diagonal squares in any direction. So you get this diamond here. The guy on the other side will have this same diamond, except obviously they share that middle square. So 4 plus 4 minus that middle square, which doubles up, is 8 minus 1 is 7. Now, in saying that, this guy can move over to this other side as well. He's not limited to just, these 4 points. As a result, it makes it kind of a weak piece. Moving in then, we have the advisors to the king. King's advisors. These guys move diagonally along these diagonal lines inside this 9-pointed square, or kind of a rectangle, but actually a square. They move inside this, and what that means is they can't leave, so they're stuck in this sort of 9-pointed space. Same with the other guy. And the king then moves in the complementary fashion to the other guys, in that he just moves forward, back, left, right, whereas the other guys move diagonally. So that's how they move. In terms of the objective is the same as in international chess, in that you want to try to attack the king in such a way that he can't move to, get away. He's stuck, and you capture the king. That's your objective, and you move the pieces. Eventually, someone will end up doing it or line up a draw. The only other big thing to consider is the fact that this guy here, the king, is actually, even though he can't leave these 9 points, the kings can, or the governors and generals, whatever called, I'm not sure what the actual translation is, can never face each other as they are now. For whatever reason, maybe they give each other dirty looks across the battlefield, they can never actually face each other. So what this means is that if we just move this guy out of the way, if we ignore all the other pieces for a second, if this guy is here and he's looking all the way down here, okay, this means that this guy cannot leave this through here. He's actually stuck on these 3 squares, unless obviously he can get a piece in the middle to block it, but he's trapped there. So this is something that happens a lot, where you'll get something like this, and then you'll get maybe a rook or a chariot or even a cannon over to this side, and it'll block off there, and then all of a sudden the king is in check by 1 piece and can't get out of check, because to do so would mean he's facing the other king. So it's I think it's called the flying general or something. I'm not 100% sure what the actual translation is because I don't speak Chinese, but that is how the pieces move. That is the objective of the game, and I will see you guys in future, where I will play a couple of games, hopefully.